Jonathan Young.
I move the question be now put.
I'm tempted, but this is an important part of an important bill. Grant Robertson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I take on board your words that it is indeed an important part of an important bill. In my earlier contribution, I set what I guess was the context of Part 1, which is the review of the child support system, and I raised a number of questions, and I've been in the House, Mr. Chair, as members of the Labor Party and other parties have raised questions, and I do want to just note at the start of my contribution my disappointment in the lack of any substantive replies. These have been genuine questions about a very complex area of law. As I said in my first contribution, everybody in this House understands that there was a need to review child support arrangements, that there were inequities, that there was unfairness. What we are asking of the government is whether or not the proposals here in Part 1 actually deal with those inequities and unfairness, or do they in fact create potentially new inequities? And it is very, very disappointing, Mr. Chair, that we will inevitably reach the end of Part 1 without a substantive contribution from a government member on these questions, which have been genuine questions. But I will forward John, Mr. Chair, and ask 2 or 3 questions about elements contained mostly in the Minister's SOP number 77 on this bill. And in particular, actually the first one won't be on that. I'll come to those in a moment. The first one is one that hasn't been raised so far, and that is around within clauses 4 brackets 3 and 4 brackets 4 around the amendment of the definition of social security benefit in the Child Support Act. And the goal here is to exclude full-time students who are receiving job seeker student hardship support between academic years. And what the effect of that would be for sole parent students who are on a form of student hardship benefit during the summer break to be treated as being off benefit for child support purposes. Now, I can understand the logic of that particular situation, and I do know for people who intend to continue being full-time students who are parents, the period of time outside of when they are eligible for student allowances can cause them financial issues and difficulty, because you go from a relatively generous student allowance as a parent, because it takes into account the number of children you have, to transitioning to other types of benefits. Most recently, a payment has been available for those parents over the summer break where they have the intention of returning to study the next year, which is, I think, called the student hardship support, effectively. What I think these clauses are doing is allowing a person to be said to be earning sufficient income to still be meeting their responsibilities for child support payments. But I'm actually not sure about that. In all honesty, looking at the definition, it's a change that we didn't dwell on in the Select Committee. It would be fair to say that the most of the Select Committee's time was spent on other parts of this bill. So I do think there is, I would like some clarification that the effect of this change will not be to penalise those parents. That's the main point that we need to make sure that we're being clear about here. Administratively, I can see that it would make sense, but we do need some assurance that parents who are in that situation, who are potentially having slightly shifting levels of income, are actually now going to be treated more fairly, more sensitively as a result of this change. I just don't know, reading it the way that it is written here. It's partly because it's a definitional question within that part of the bill rather than a substantive one, but it was not something we covered, but it does get a mention in the Minister's SOP. The other matter in that SOP that I am looking for some further answers on, and other members have raised this point, Mr. Chair, I will acknowledge that, but we haven't had an answer. And that is the question of the change from it being the Commissioner defining whether or not there should be relief on the grounds of efficiency of use of resources versus the Commissioner now having a wider set of criteria to judge whether there should be relief from payments, in particular the question of serious hardship. Now, I have several questions on this front. Serious hardship sounds like a term beyond hardship. I don't think there's anyone in this House who would want to see children in hardship as a result of a decision that we were to make in this House. So by putting the word serious in front of the word hardship in these changes, it is pushing out where the Commissioner could intervene and say, actually, no, I want some relief from penalties for this family because the children of this family will suffer if that parent is in hardship. Mr Chair.
Ian McKelvey.
Move that the question be now put.